Hey, welcome to the Wrestlers Wrestling Show, and today I'm joined by Mark Haskins.
Stop.
Okay, so my first question to you, Mark, one of the big things that we all notice about you is just your insane cardio in the ring. What is it that you do that kind of helps with that cardio?
Not a lot. Like,
really?
Yeah. I've just been blessed with a really good set of lungs, I guess. Like, especially I guess like early on, like there was a huge cardio component of training, and like I made a huge effort during my teens to go out and go running late at night. Like, just trying to do anything that I could to get good cardio, and then I guess it's just kind of always stuck with me since then. I've definitely like increased my game a lot more recently because it's something that like I'm conscious of that I want to just be even better at. Like, and so like a lot of the time like I'll focus on things like doing 10-15 minutes of sprints, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. There's little things that like I try to do as well, like that might sound kind of bizarre, but like I find like help in regards to wrestling. So like when I'm sprinting, for example, like I try to like be miming along to the song that I'm like singing, or like I'm listening to in my head. Like I hope I'm not singing anything in the gym and like shouting out lyrics to Santana Smooth or whatever. But little things like that, or between like sprints, like when I'm just stood on the treadmill, like I try to compose myself and like not look tired and not look out of breath or anything like that, because I mean like how often is it that you do something wrestling wise, the spot ends and then you have to get up and you have to shout at somebody, or you need like a big visual, like just kind of conditioning your body so it becomes second nature, so then that way you're not thinking about it during the moment, right? Like it just kind of becomes like what it is that you do.
So a lot of injury-build stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think like it's got to be relevant to what what it is that you're trying to do. Like especially with wrestling, you'll find that there's fast-paced action and then there's downtime.
Yeah.
So you have to condition your body to get used to that. Particularly, working out that energy system of like having a short period of time where everything is max intensity, and then there is downtime where you can catch your breath back. But also during that time, like like we've been saying, like you still need to be doing something, like moving around or whatever. So like that's why I never try to just stand there and wait. Like I try to still be doing at least something, so that then like that can carry forward. Like the thing that I always think is that you want to be able to train in the gym as and be able to condition yourself in as much as a way that will be relevant to wrestling, because you go in there, I mean we've all done these bodybuilding routines and try to eat chicken however much every time a day, and like you just find that it's not always the most beneficial that it could be in relation to wrestling. Like you might be able to squat a bunch, you might look jacked and ripped, but then like how many big jack guys do you know that when they come to wrestling they blow up straight away? Like there's nothing there, so like just trying to do things like that, like trying to work when you're tired, like I find is like just doing anything that will blow you up, that will get you tired, that will make you feel like I don't want to do anything, and then stacking a really hard exercise in there. So like it's the same as like, I mean, what it's like, you travel, you barely get any sleep, like you get to a show, like you might speak to 10 20 different people, you've got to go and do merch, like your head's all over the place, like you're physically knackered, and then you got to go and wrestle like 20 minutes on top of that. Like it's killer, isn't it? So
it's also, I suppose, your environment. You are one of the very few guys that I had that never really complained about the Tivoli, because I suppose the Tivoli is just such a small compact space and everyone's breathing, so the oxygen is kind of stale, but like you were one of the few guys that could go out there and still go 20 minutes full force, so I found that impressive.
Well man, like I love the Tivoli, like there's something about like the right venue, the right atmosphere that helps you with what it is that you're doing, like I'm I visualize a lot when I train, like I listen to specific songs depending on what it is that I feel. Like if I feel like I'm going into an exercise and I'm like, oh, like this is going to be a struggle, then like I need a song that's like trying to burst my my eardrums or whatever, because I need that like level. And like kind of like the same in regards to like settings, like when you're in like a dark dingy hall, but like you've got like 500-600 people like crowded around that are just like into what's going on, like I loved it. Like that was the atmosphere that I loved about wrestling, is like people just like that kind of like intensity, like that nitty gritty feel for it, and like I guess like that was like in regards to training, like I'd try and do things like I remember years ago I used to have a cross trainer, and so I'd go into our conservatory in the middle of the summer. I'd shut the doors and everything so it would be like ridiculously hot in there, so the air was thick, and then I'd jump on the cross trainer for an hour because I was like, okay, I've got to get used to breathing when it's like when the oxygen's like barely there. So doing things like that, like I got a what do you call them, like a
the masks.
Yeah, one of those masks for Christmas. Somebody bought it for me, and like
really?
I've read reports that suggest that it's not going to give you the same effect as if you were to train at an altitude, because training at a certain altitude affects like your blood and stuff like that. Like it's not necessarily going to do that, but the thing that I have found is like I try to wear it because I know that it's hard to breathe, like especially when you're in a ring, and like somebody might be wearing deep heat or baby oil or like fake tan, or like you've got your hair in your mouth, like there's so much going on that could go on like during a wrestling match. Like sometimes it's good just to kind of get in yourself, getting used to trying to breathe when like.
Do you wear this in the gym?
Sometimes, yeah.
You get any weird looks?
All the time, like I have so many ridiculous exercises that I do, man, that like people kind of like look over, and like people have said to me as well, like there's a physio who I work with in the gym who's like he told me, he's like, I've looked over at you and been like, what the hell are you doing like exercise wise? And I'm like, it's relevant to what I do.
Exactly.
Like if anyone knows what a Bosu ball is, it's like it's one like a half ball, and then it's got like a flat like plastic kind of like top to it. It's great for balance exercises, right? So like I'll try and stand on this ball, and I'll take like a band and tie it around something, and I'll try and do like a Y raise and a T raise and then back like so, or a row, or like trying to stand like side onto it and doing a pal-off press and then a twist. And like on a ball, like I mean it might not necessarily have the best overall effect for like abs or whatever, but like you think, how relevant is it to being stood on a rope and like having to tussle with somebody and like
you're stabilizing muscles in your core,
right. So like it's just trying to do things like that like resemble what it is that you do in a ring, and trying to be able to, I mean it's hard because you can't emulate it in any way, do you know what I mean? Like it's just trying to find things that are very similar to it, like a burpee into like a jump squat is very similar to like a drop down and a leapfrog. So I've done ridiculous conditioning circuits over the years where it'd be like a lot of burpees, a lot of resisted sprints, burpee bag slams or something else I enjoy, just because like it's fun. Like I find like a lot of things like that more fun than I do necessarily working with weights all the time. Like sometimes you just got to throw something around and have some steam, man. So just trying to tie that into make it more of a game, because I'm also super competitive. So like if I give myself like a target of like, okay, I need to get this many in the space of a minute, then like I'm focusing on trying to beat it rather than focusing on how much I hate what I'm doing. Like, do you know what I mean? So just trying to find stuff that's relevant to what it is that you do.
So another question I have for you is that you've been around for a long time. How long have you been around?
13 years now.
So you would have taken a few knocks and a couple of injuries, and I remember one of them was your neck, and it kind of seemed quite serious, that it might even be time to call it a day. Like, how did you take that news, and how did you approach it? I know there's a lot of old timers that would just say, just keep working on, but I think sometimes you got to listen to your body. Like, how did you approach it?
100%. It was a very eye-opening situation for me. So basically, around the time that like I had my neck issues, like I was picking up momentum, I was picking up steam. I was breaking out into new places. Like I felt I was on a roll. Like it was the first time where I really felt like, okay, I'm like going to do something here. I'm going to go, set the world on fire. And then I got lumbered with this neck injury, and in the weeks leading up to it, like I'd been getting headaches during my matches, which I just thought was dehydration. So I was like necking bottles of water before I went out, and I was still getting headaches when I got to the back. So I was like, okay, something's going on here. I remember I woke up one night in the middle of the night, and just my entire arm was just burning. Like it just felt like I thought my wife had ripped me and like covered my arm in deep heat. So I like wake up, I'm like, oh you bitch, and like look over and she's asleep, and I'm like, I'm such a shit husband. So like I just blame her for it. But it was kind of then where I was like, okay, the headaches, this, like I was having like rehab on my rotator cuff at the time, and my physio was like, okay, I think this might be a neck related thing, like this could be coming from like a completely different place altogether. So I had to go and have an MRI done on my neck, which sent me back a few £100, and then you get told like, yeah, you know probably shouldn't be wrestling. Like on top of that, what they found was that I had a series of bulging discs, which also as well since then like I've tried to look into and like understand everything. Bulging discs are quite common, especially in your sort of your thoracic and lumbar spine. They tend to come out, but they also tend to go back in relatively easily without you even really noticing. I also had, I think it was 3 or 4 discs in the stage of early degeneration, but my cervical spine is straight, which is this bit going up into your neck, and I had a vertebrae that was slightly out of place, and then and on top of that I had a narrowing between 2 sets of vertebrae, something known as cervical radicalopathy, which is basically like the narrowing here was causing an impingement on the nerve that went into my arm. So that was why I was feeling like tingling sensations down my arm or burning sensation, because like it was imposing on this nerve. So I see one physio, he tells me like the worst news ever. He's like, this is the end of your career, you've got the neck of an 80-year-old, you need to think about retiring, and you like that killed me inside. And then I spoke to Yestin Reese, who's also a trained physio, wrestler in the UK, and he was like, mate, 2 weeks of rehab and you'll be fine. And like the emotional roller coaster you go on between the two is quite something, right? And I was like, I don't know who to believe, and like I don't know what to think, because these are both like 2 skilled physios in their thing. But like all I knew at that point was that I would never forgive myself if I was working with somebody and I seriously hurt them because I had refused to take the time off for myself. So I was like, regardless of anything, I'm going to take some time away and I'm just going to try and heal this the best I can. Because I tried taking like at least a couple of weeks off, and then I'd come back to it, and there had still been certain symptoms and stuff. Like you try to wrestle with these things for a while, and then you realise that you're just getting more hurt, and it's it's not working out best for you. There's some injuries that you can work around. Like I've had like broken bones in both feet for like the past few years, and I've just refused to get them looked at. But then you notice that later on that like, okay, well that aches, or like that hurts, or because of that, like that's caused me to squat in a different way, which means that you therefore have like a knock-on effect, because everything is a chain, right? From like your feet to your head, like every muscle has a chain effect. Like it's weird. The more I work with physios, the more I realise this. You might be able to like loosen something off in your calf, which therefore allows your shoulder to slot back into place, and your shoulder pain's gone. It's like it's mental. Like the body is such a complex thing, is that like you might be feeling pain here, but it might be coming from like your hip. Do you know what I mean? It's like everything has a knock-on effect. So it's one of those things where you have to assess how bad it is. Like I remember at one point I think I was wrestling with like 5 or 6 different injuries. Like I broke that finger, like I partially tore my adductor in this leg, I like screwed up both rotator cuffs, and I was just like, no, it's fine, I'll keep going. And then like something else happened, and I was like, you know what, I feel like this is a sign, I need to take some time away. So I took time away, came back, and then like had the best run that like I had so far. So
did you find any of your injuries you had to kind of change your style up? Was there certain things you go, well, I can't do this anymore, or did you just focus on coming back as being Mark Haskins from the previous?
Kind of. So I'm very conscious of when and where not to do things. Do so like for example, like I kind of try to avoid like power bombs, German suplexes, brain busters. Pile drivers aren't too bad because you usually like land on somebody's thighs, like it's a little bit more protective than like whereas a German suplex you're just being thrown backwards through the air onto the back of your head. There's certain things where you can get around it, like, and especially as well, I kind of feel like the illusion of wrestling is like you could be hurt, but like it's trying to hide that. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the real art of it. Is like the magic. Like I think it was Bret Hart that once said like you only truly learn how to work once you're hurt. Because that's when you realise, okay, I can't do this, or I've got to get around that. So it makes you more aware. It makes you think outside the box as well. Like just because I couldn't necessarily do all these things, where it's like, okay, well, how do I get a reaction without doing those things? Or how do I switch it up? Like, that's why I feel like you should never be reliant on moves for, wrestling, because people don't people don't connect with moves. People connect with emotions.
Yeah.
People connect with like who you are. Like, do they believe in you? It's all about like you should never be relying on like moves. Like people, I feel like the same. I always use this as an example. Everybody remembers "I'm sorry, I love you" super kick, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell me the people involved. You can tell me like the show. You can tell me when it was. But like nobody remembers like top rope moonsault, holding a ladder onto 10 guys, which was in the opening match of the same show.
Yeah.
You know, like if what we do is based off of emotion, why go out there and physically annihilate your body? Like especially when you think the shelf life of a wrestler is relatively short. Like most people don't see their way into their 40s or 50s in their career. So just try and be smart with that, because I mean, I'm sure you're the same. Like, especially early on, you're not smart. Like,
no.
You
it
think
takes
like,
so long to kind of get that wrestling is about emotion and selling as opposed to
right.
moves. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And you always think as well, like, electrical tape will fix it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just tape everything up, and then you just get more hurt. And like, the thing is, like, once you have one injury, then like the rest of your body compensates for it, and then something else gets hurt, and then like you know what I mean? You're trying to play around and like avoid just getting hurt all the time, whereas like sometimes it is just easier to like, okay, let's just take some time off and chill with this. Like I do feel like we're very much a guinea pig generation that has kind of grown out of a dark age where it would be like, oh, you've had a concussion, go wrestle the next day, like you're a pussy if you don't. And it's like, well, no, that's not. We now understand things like a lot better. Like we know now that like if you have a concussion and you get a second knock, that the second knock is even like worse than the original one. It's just trying to be smart with things, and also as well, like don't be afraid to say when you need that time off as well. Like I think like we're all too fearful of like losing a spot or like losing out on an opportunity and what have you, whereas like, well, how good is that opportunity going to be if you're hurt?
Yeah.
Like I had a WWE tryout arranged at the time that I had the neck issues, and I was like, I would love to be able to do this, but like give you like what I feel isn't my best.
Yeah.
Like some people might have seen that and been like, I'm going to do this, like do or die. And like when I said like I'd like to just take this time off and here, they were like super cool about it. They were like, yeah, that's no problem. Like we'll take a look at you again in like another time. And they did, so it's just kind of like just trying to assess things as well, like know how bad the injury is. Sometimes you can feel, I mean, you can come out of a gym session and have like serious DOMs somewhere, and you're like, oh, this is like I'm in agony, like this is like a total tear, and then like 2 days later you're fine. So just be apprehensive, like take caution with everything. Just try and look after yourself as well. I'm a huge advocate of like foam rolling and stretching and mobility work and that kind of thing, because we wrestle for 10-20 minutes, maybe half an hour, then like you have to go and sit in a car for however many hours, or like go and get a flight, and like you just like jammed into this small space and everything seizes up on you, right? So it's just trying to like dynamic stretching and just moving and just trying to free yourself up so you're not just always cramped up.
My final question would be, you've been around probably the same amount of time as I have, but the psychology of wrestling, it was quite simple. You'd have your shine, your heat, your comeback, your go home. It's changed a lot. What's the advice on kind of like for the new generation of wrestling in terms of psychology and just, I suppose, selling yourself, I suppose?
Try to think out of the box, because the way like I always think of it like this is that you got two types of people: those who tell you how it should be and those who react to how it is. So those who will tell you like, oh well, it should be like this, well the heel should always like get the baby face over, and and that's great, like and back in the day like that was awesome, because the heel was on a percentage of the baby face's merchandise, so he would get a cut of that, so there would be incentives to go out there and get somebody else over, so because you would make more money as well. That's not the case anymore, right? Like everybody is a brand. Now you've got like this person with their brand, this person with their brand. In what other business does somebody go into it purposely trying to make themselves look bad or to be disliked so that somebody else is better off? Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't happen. Like that's not to say that you can't be a heel, but just do it in a way where like it's at least redeemable. Where like for example, like if you look at the Joker in Batman, right? Like he's a heel, but he's marketable. Like you see white, red, green, and purple together, and you instantly think Joker. Like it could just be those colours, and you think, oh, that's the Joker. Do you know what I mean? Why? Because he's marketable. Because like people understand he's the villain of the story, but you know they understand this is story. Like they can still get into that. Like I remember years ago, like we turned heel, and I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. You know, like this is a new side of me, and then just our merch sales just dropped, and like terribly so, to the point where I was like, fuck, like I'm gonna have to.
It's not so good.
It's terrible. I was super excited for it, and I was like, oh gosh, like I never shout at like you know, be upset about like a cool heel or a funny heel again, because like I get it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and that's it. Like, especially with independent wrestling, if you know, there's a huge chunk of people's income comes from that merchandise.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, you know, while I'd love to say, oh yeah, well the heel's sole purpose, you know, conventionally should be to put the babyface over, and that, it's like, well, unless you're getting a cut of that, like, you know, you're both putting in the work. Sometimes as a heel, you're putting in more work than the other guy, and they're just reaping the benefits, and you're getting nothing. Like, realistically, like, how does that, like, you know, how's that like beneficial for anybody, like from a business standpoint? Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you know, it's tough because everybody's got a different idea of how things should be, but like I feel like you can't argue with results. You know what I mean? Like if somebody goes out there and they're not necessarily being a conventional heel, but then like they get more over because of it, or you know, people start talking because of it, then it's like they've, you know, in certain situations it turns out that they may have made the right call by not being so, you know, turning up the ante as much as like, you know, you might have liked, but like it's helped things in the grand scheme because they're a bigger draw because of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So you think be a little bit selfish, maybe?
Yeah, like you have to be. Like it's, like I hate it because like I always want everybody to come out better off. Like anybody that I work with, I want to be better off for working with me. Do you know what I mean? Like I you know, I'm a man of my word. Like I want to go into things like this whole program that we've had with Terry Thatcher is like, because I want to, you know, I want him to benefit from it. Like I want to try and help establish him as Terry Thatcher and, you know, the person he is, or, you know, help establish Maxted, or help establish like Martina. Like not that she needs establishing here, but like, you know, it's just trying to work with people, and like I want them to benefit like as well as me, because if we're going out there and it's all me, like, are you gonna want to work with me again? Do you know what I mean? Like you're only as good as your dancing partner. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, especially when I go into wrestling, like my game was just like make the other person look as good as they possibly could. Because if you're going in there and your goal is to make me look as good as I can, and my goal is to do the same to you, then we're both going to come off better off for it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like if we go in there and it's like it's all me, then, you know, that sucks for you. Like I come back next month, I haven't got anybody to work with. Do you know what I mean? Like there is a certain level though where you do have to start thinking like, okay, well, I have to get this in, or like I at least need to do this, like in a sense. And when I say I mean like get this in, I just mean like in the sense of like you need something that's going to establish who you are and who your act is. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be I got to get my moves in, because like we said, people don't relate to moves.
Exactly.
Whereas at least if there's something like that, you're like, okay, I can go in there, I can take all your moves, like I can take all your shit, but then I'm going to do something like dirty as a heel, like at the end, roll you up or whatever. Like it still gets you the same end result like that you originally planned, but it's, you know, it's just trying to adapt it in a way that like kind of ticks all the boxes in you know, the current day climate of things. You know what I mean? Like, you know, is it that, you know, you have to get in something that like at the end of the match you do look like a fool, but in a way where people are going to laugh at you, so at least people will come up to you at the merch stand and be like, that was funny, that, do you know what I mean? And then like you're chatting and it's a completely different ball game, because now you're, you know, fucking a market stall, do you know what I'm saying? And you're like trying to sell, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a lot of things like built up on top of each other, but like don't go out there with the sole intention of being disliked, because you don't make any money from it. Like, unless a promoter, like if I was promoting things, I would love to just say like, I need you as a heel, I'm going to double your pay because I know that you're going to lose out on money on merch, but I need you to get my guys over. Then you've got a tool who can go out there and get guys over. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like look at like Flair back in the NWA days. Like he was making like money off of like the NWA. Do you know what I mean? So it didn't matter that he, you know, I don't even know if merchandise was necessarily a thing
Yeah,
back
I wouldn't
then.
say so.
You know, like he probably didn't, like, you know, it didn't exist. So like there was no intention for him to go out there and be like, okay, I've got to, you know, at least do something that like sells like my merch. Do you know what I mean? Like he could just go out there and be a heel. Like wrestling has kind of evolved to some extent. Like if we've got a 6-minute match, like that's got to be like a 3-minute advert for you and a 3-minute advert for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like it's just basically doing something that you know is going to connect with people enough that they're either going to want to see you again or they're going to want to buy a t-shirt.
Okay.
Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. Do you know what I mean? Like how many TV shows nowadays are the bad guys the main like you know, characters? Like look at like Birds of Prey coming out, like it's all about heels. You know what I mean? Suicide Squad, like Breaking Bad, like Sons of Anarchy. All these people are like supposed to be heels, but then like you know you fall in love with them and like you know they get over it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know, man. It's an ever evolving game, and it's something that like you try to stay on top of. But like yeah, my one piece of advice would be like don't go into this thinking like like I'm gonna get heat, bro, because it doesn't always work out right for the best. Try to be smart with it. Yeah, try to be like just keep adapting and applying. Do you know what I mean? Like go out, try something. If it works, it works. Like if it doesn't, then like you know scrap it, come back, do something different. You know what I mean? Like if you're making money, like at the end of the day, that's what this business is for, right? Is making money. You know. So like you know you gotta figure out your way of doing that, and it's different for everybody. You know, some people set up brands, some people you know. Have podcasts, have training schools, some people are promoters, some people are wrestlers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like finding what it is that you do best and then doing it to the best of your abilities.
Brilliant. We must do part 2 sometime.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Mark Haskins.
Sound.